This is my capstone. I learned a basic introduction to glassblowing, and I completed an applied project within the field of scientific glassblowing. I learned how to cut glass rods properly, how to pull a point, how to make a Maria, how to utilize heat and gravity to mold and shape glass, how to make a side seal, how to round an edge of glass, how to properly use the blowpiece, how to use glass lathe. What is glassblowing? Glassblowing is the craft of making glassware by blowing air into a semi-molten glass through a long tube. Glassblowing was invented by Syrian craftsmen in the area of Sidon, Aleppo, Hama, and Palmyra in the 1st century BC. Two major methods of glassblowing are free blowing and mold blowing. I will be doing mold blowing. My dad has been the only person teaching me and guiding me through the process. I needed assistance through this process because it was considered a hazardous working environment for those who are not trained in this profession. What I took away from this project. This capstone has allowed me to further solidify my choice to work in the trades industry. I've learned how to use basic glassblowing tools, learned how to properly apply my hands-on learning skills. It's allowed me to experience what a job in the trades would really be like, and it let me see what my dad does daily. This is what we'll be making. It's a condenser. These are some of the measurements we used. This is me cutting the glass, and this is me by the end of the project working on the glass lathe. This is me learning how to pull a point. Fairly simple, you just stick the glass pieces together. There. Keep in mind you can't see what I'm seeing because I was wearing special made glasses for this. There's a sodium glare that's preventing you from seeing what the molten glass would actually look like. You can see the almost super bright flame there. That's the sodium glare. In this third video, you'll see me making Marias out of the pulling a point allowed me to have something to work with here. You start by squishing it together, putting it back in the fire with a hotter, more bushier flame, and then pulling it apart to make that hose connection there. Here is the glass lathe that I was working on most of the time. This is more Maria. This thing was a pain to work with. The handle used to tighten this end was super hard for me to use. It took me a good 2 or 3 days to get used to. All the tools on the bottom here are laid in that direction because the hot stuff is meant to point away from you. what I'm doing here is I'm melting this part of the glass because this glass lathe is not true to center. So by doing this, by melting this piece here, it allows it to align to the other half of the lathe so it becomes true. Fairly simple process to make this Maria with the lathe. It's easier than doing it uh, with your hands. It's a lot easier. I can say I pushed out maybe 25, 30 Marias in one day using the lathe. Here's me making the side seals and tapering the middle. This is uh, basically the end of the project. I know it's hard to see right now, but if you can see, I was right, yeah, right there, trying to taper in this middle piece by using the blowpipe and by using the heat as well. Um, what you're doing is there's a glass rod in the middle, and you're trying to meld that glass onto the rod inside of the condenser. This is one of the most important pieces of the project. I needed assistance here because this part was really dangerous. It can be highly explosive. All right, you can hear my dad talking about that part. Reason why we have to keep the glassware warm is because if you're heating and cooling the glass rapidly, it's prone to um, break due to the rapid changes in heat. And here I will be demonstrating the side seal. You start by tightening your fire and aiming the bottom piece of the fire at the place you want to pop out. What you're doing is you're creating a dimple with the heat, or with the blow piece as well, and then you're going to blow it straight up and out, like that there. You have to be careful of how big the hole can be. Uh, there I messed up because it was a much bigger hole than I needed there, and it made the process a lot harder for making the side seal. And for the side seal, you might be able to see I was using the Marias we made before. Maria with the hose connection that I hand made. And you start off by heating both sides of the pieces of glass. The bottom piece, the piece that's the actual condenser, heats up very fast, faster than the handheld Maria. And you have to make both pieces of the glass molten before you can actually connect them. It's like welding, but with glass. And you can see that this Maria is now connected to the condenser, but you need to fix up the slopes to make sure that they aren't too thin and they aren't too thick. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. This process is it's very tedious because it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of concentration to see where the glass is flowing and where it's going to go. A little trick my dad taught me is point or brush the flame where you want the glass to go. And here again, we're just going to be keeping this condenser warm, making sure that it doesn't crack on us because this is the final stage of the project. The rest of the video is basically all just me keeping the warm so it doesn't crack or break apart. And after this process, we put it in the furnace to make sure that it stays the same shape, so we're able to use it in labs later. Anyways, that was the presentation. Thank you very much. As you can see, there's clearly YouTube links here. If you want to watch all the videos, I will hand in the PowerPoint as well, so that you're able to see the lengthy videos for yourself.